Leaves don't whisper names. I was raking the yard that morning. Just me, the wind, and the whisper of dry leaves scraping against the soil. You know how some sounds feel like they're trying to say something? This one did. It said my name, soft, broken, like someone testing the weight of it on their tongue. I froze. My father used to call me that way, half sigh, half scolding. But my father's been dead for 3 years. The trees around the old house bowed under the season's fatigue, skeletal and bare. Their shadows were long and bent, stretching like fingers over the frozen grass. I could smell the smoke from my neighbor's chimney, but it carried an undertone of rot, like wet wood that refused to burn clean. The rake slipped from my hands and clattered onto the ground, but I didn't pick it up. Somewhere beyond the fence, something moved, slow, deliberate, the crunch of leaves under feet that shouldn't exist. Memory can't hurt you, I whispered to myself. It's the lie every grieving soul tells. But the truth? Memory lingers. It waits in corners, hides in wind, and wears familiar voices like masks. I looked toward the oak by the edge of the property, the one my father planted the day I was born. Its branches were empty, but beneath it lay a small pile of leaves that seemed untouched by the wind. Still, perfect, waiting. And then again the voice came, closer this time, from the direction of that oak. My name. Only now it wasn't soft. It was pleading. I should have gone inside. I should have walked away. But grief does strange things to reason. When the dead call your name, part of you wants to answer, because maybe, just maybe, it means they never truly left. That night, I heard it again. Son? The voice came from outside, low, tired, and familiar in a way that made my stomach twist. I grabbed the flashlight and stepped into the cold. The leaves shifted like they were alive, circling my feet, clinging to my boots as though trying to stop me. My father's rake leaned against the shed door, just where he'd left it before the heart attack took him. Only now it stood upright, clean, polished. I hadn't touched that thing in years. When the beam of the flashlight caught it, something glimmered in the tines, something wet. I thought it was dew, but it looked darker, thicker. I wiped it with my sleeve. The stain came away red. The wind pushed through the branches, and the sound it made wasn't quite wind anymore. It was breath. Heavy. Close. I backed toward the porch, but the ground seemed to sigh under me, like the earth itself exhaled through those dry leaves. I could swear I heard them whisper again all at once, a chorus of soft voices repeating my name. By the third night, the voice became sentences. Please, regrets. My father saying, you left me in the dirt. I stopped sleeping. I started leaving the porch light on, though it didn't help much. The shadows under the trees only grew thicker, denser, as if they were feeding on the glow. One morning, I found the rake lying by the oak tree, buried halfway into the soil. The same spot where my father had once planted flowers for my mother. The ground there had sunk a little, just enough to make it look like something or someone had been trying to crawl out. The next night, the whispers moved inside. The first time I heard them from the attic, I froze halfway up the stairs. It wasn't the voice that stopped me. It was the rhythm, like someone sweeping. One scrape, then another, steady, patient. I climbed the steps anyway, stupidly clutching the flashlight like it could protect me. The air up there was cold and heavy with dust, but in the corner, under the single window, there it was, my father's old chair, rocking. And then the whisper came again, closer than it had ever been. Help me remember. That's when I saw it, the pile of dead leaves forming slowly at my feet, inside the house. The whispering didn't stop. It clawed at the edges of my hearing, closer, louder, until I couldn't tell if it was the wind, my mind, or something moving beneath the soil. By dawn, I'd had enough. I grabbed the rake, the same one that kept appearing clean, waiting, and marched toward the oak tree. The air was colder than before, thick with the scent of earth turned wet. Every step felt heavier, as if the ground didn't want me there. I started raking, harder and harder, until the whispers turned into voices. Dozens of them, some angry, some pleading, all calling my name like a prayer that had gone unanswered for too long. The rake's metal teeth caught on something solid. The sound wasn't like hitting a root or a rock, it was hollow. I dropped to my knees, dug with my hands until my nails filled with mud. And then I saw it. A box, small, wooden, the kind used for keepsakes or offerings. My hands were trembling when I opened it. Inside were old photographs, me and my father through the years. Fishing trips, birthdays, the porch at sunset. Memories that had no business being this damp, this cold. But the last photo, God, the last one stopped my breath. It was me, standing in the yard, raking, and behind me, blurred by distance but unmistakable, was a figure among the trees, bent, watching. The handwriting on the back, crooked and shaking, said, "He's still waiting for you." The ground shuddered. The oak groaned like a living thing. The wind exploded into a howl, and the leaves lifted off the ground in a frenzy, gold, brown, and red, spinning so violently I could barely see. I stumbled back, shielding my face, but the sound kept rising. My name, over and over, no longer whispers but screams. The soil bulged at the base of the tree, cracking open like breath beneath the earth. And then I heard it, clear, unmistakable, human. Son, it wasn't from the trees this time. It came from beneath the soil. I dropped the box. The photographs scattered in the wind, faces twisting as they flew. I fell to my knees, the rake slipping from my hand. My heart hammered, torn between terror and something worse, recognition. Because deep down, I finally understood what he meant. I hadn't buried him alone. He'd been waiting for me to finish what I started. By dawn, the yard looked untouched. The soil was smooth again, the oak still and silent, as if nothing had happened. But the box was gone. I told myself I'd imagined it all, hallucinated it maybe. Grief does strange things to a man left too long with his own thoughts. Still, when I picked up the rake, it felt warm. Not sun-warmed, but human-warm, like someone else's hands had just been holding it. The air was heavy, the kind of stillness that makes your ears ring. I started gathering the leaves again, slower this time, careful with every motion. I didn't want to disturb anything that might still be listening. Every scrape of the rake over the earth sounded like breathing, steady, rhythmic, alive. I told myself I'd stop after one pile, just one. But when I looked up, there were dozens, circles of leaves, all perfectly arranged around the oak. I didn't remember doing that. The morning light broke through the branches, thin and gray. It fell over the rake, glinting on the metal teeth, clean again. I crouched to pick up one stray leaf that had fallen from the pile, small and brittle, trembling in the faint wind. And that's when I heard it. Not a whisper this time. Not a memory. A breath. Close. Behind me. Don't leave me here. I froze. The rake slipped from my hands. My throat closed up. Slowly, I turned toward the voice, but there was no one there. Just the oak, still as stone. Then, from the soil at its roots, something shifted. A faint movement. The leaves rustled, not from the wind, but from underneath. Something, or someone, was trying to reach the surface. I stumbled back, tripping over the rake. My boot caught the edge of one of the piles, scattering it across the ground. Beneath the broken circle, I saw it, a fragment of wood, the same kind that made the box. My heart pounded. I knelt and brushed the dirt away, desperate and terrified all at once. There was handwriting carved into it now, fresh, as if the soil itself had written it overnight. It said only one thing: finish the burial. The wind rose again, carrying 1,000 tiny whispers, and I swear, every single one of them said my name. My name, but this time it came from below, from the dirt I just pressed down. A whisper so close it could have been inside my ear, breathing against my skin. I dropped the rake and stumbled backward. The ground pulsed once, like a heartbeat under the earth, then went still. I waited for it to move again, but the silence that followed was worse. It wasn't peace, it was expectation. For a long while, I stood there, watching the soil settle. The wind had died, and the yard felt hollow, emptied of sound. Just me, the rake, and that patch of earth that no longer looked like it belonged to the living. I told myself I was done, that I'd finish the burial, seal the past, and never come back. But that's the thing about grief. You don't bury it, you plant it, and it grows back in shapes that look familiar. I rebuilt the piles, one by one, until the yard was clean again. The rake stood upright beside the oak, waiting, always waiting. Now sometimes when the wind drifts through the branches, I hear him again. My father's voice, soft and distant, carried in the rustle of leaves. Not angry anymore, not pleading, just calling me the way he used to when dinner was ready, or when I'd wandered too far. And I answer, not out loud, not anymore, but I do. I whisper his name back just once, and the wind always stills, like he's listening, like that's all he ever wanted. I've stopped telling myself memory can't hurt. It can, it does, but it also remembers. And sometimes remembering is the only way the dead can keep breathing. So when I rake the yard now, I take my time. I listen. I don't fight the voices. I let them come. Because the dead don't haunt the living. They just remind us we were never really alone. And if you ever find yourself outside and the leaves start whispering your name, don't run, just listen. Because maybe someone's waiting for you too. Thank you for listening to tonight's story. If it gave you chills, a thought, or even a whisper, like this video to help the channel grow. Subscribe for daily stories that linger in the dark, and share this with someone who listens when the wind calls their name. There's another story waiting for you on the screen. I'll see you tomorrow night.